Jack was just a human worker on the galactic peace station. He wasn't a soldier, not a hero, not even a famous engineer. He fixed broken lights, repaired doors, and sometimes cleaned the air vents. Most people didn't even notice him, but that one day, everything changed. That day, Jack became the most talked about man in the galaxy. It started like any normal day. Had a wrench in one hand and a tablet in the other. He was checking broken pipes in the lower halls, far from the main docking bays. The hallway was empty, quiet, and cold. Jack hummed to himself as he knelt down to fix a pipe near the floor. Suddenly, he heard soft footsteps, light, slow, almost like someone was limping. He turned his head and saw her. A girl, or maybe not a girl, maybe something more. She had soft, golden skin. Her hair floated as if underwater, and her eyes were glowing like little suns. She stumbled, holding her side, and nearly fell. Jack dropped his tools and rushed to catch her. He reached out, and she collapsed into his arms. She was warm but shaking. Jack looked around, confused. "Are you okay?" he asked. The girl whispered something in a strange language. Then in broken English, "Help. Me? Across." Jack nodded. "Okay. Lean on me. I've got you." He slowly helped her walk down the hall, step by step. She was light. Almost too light, like she wasn't made for gravity. Just as they reached the other end of the corridor, guards appeared. Their armor was glowing blue. Their weapons pointed directly at Jack. "Step away from the princess," one of them shouted. Jack froze. "Princess?" he asked, but before he could react, they tackled him to the ground. The girl screamed, "No," and pushed the guards back with surprising strength. She knelt beside Jack and placed her hand on his chest. "Don't hurt him," she said. Clearly in English now, "He helped me." The guards looked confused, and one spoke into a communicator. "We need the High Council now." Jack was pulled to his feet, his arms locked behind him. He didn't resist, but he didn't understand. What was happening? "Can someone tell me what I did wrong?" he asked. The answer came not from the guards, but from an older alien who stepped into the hallway. His robe sparkled like a star field, and his voice echoed in Jack's mind. "You touched the royal blood," the elder said. "You guided her in weakness. You carried her strength." Jack blinked. "I just helped someone who was hurt." The elder nodded. "And that kindness has a price." "Human, what kind of price?" Jack asked. Now feeling nervous, the elder turned to the guards. He must be taken to the ceremony chamber. "What ceremony?" Jack shouted. "I didn't agree to anything," but no one listened. The princess looked at Jack with soft, glowing eyes. She whispered, "I'm sorry, but you must come with me now." They dragged Jack through shining halls, past statues, glowing crystals, and alien beings he had never seen before. Some bowed, others stared with anger or confusion. He was taken into a chamber made of gold and glass filled with strange smoke and symbols. In the center stood a large round table, and around it, seated in high chairs, were the royal elders. One of them stood, tall and glowing. "This human has touched our princess during her sacred walk." Another added, "Tradition says he must now breed to tie our royal blood to his." Jack's eyes widened. "Breed?" he gasped. "You're kidding, right?" The princess stood beside him now, calm and silent. She said, "It is our way. Jack, you have saved me. And now you must stay." Jack didn't know what to say. He had only helped someone who was about to fall, and now he was standing in front of alien rulers being told he must breed with a princess. His heart was racing, his hands shaking. "I'm just a repair guy," he muttered. "I don't know anything about your traditions." The elder spoke again. "You have until moonrise to accept, or you will be exiled from this station and hunted by our enemies." Jack looked at the princess again. Her face calm, but her eyes full of something sadness or hope. He didn't understand what he had walked into. All he knew was that his Life would never be normal again, and the whole galaxy was watching what he would do next. Jack sat quietly in a glowing room made of soft crystals and silver vines. He didn't know if he was a guest or a prisoner. 2 guards stood near the door, but they didn't speak. The air smelled sweet, like flowers mixed with metal, outside the large window. Stars floated slowly in the distance. His mind was spinning. He had come here just to fix a broken pipe. Now, alien elders wanted him to breed with a royal princess. He didn't even know her name until now, Princess Thalara. She was beautiful, yes, but this was not a love story. It felt like a trap, or a dream, or maybe a joke gone too far. The door slid open with a soft sound. Thalara entered, walking slowly, wearing a silk robe that shimmered with every color. Her steps were quiet, but full of purpose. Jack stood up. Quickly, unsure if he should bow or speak, she raised a hand gently. "Sit, Jack," she said. "We need to talk." Jack sat back down, his hands resting on his knees. Thalara sat across from him, her long fingers folded. "I know this is strange," she began, her voice soft. "I didn't ask for this either." Jack sighed. "Then tell them to let me go." She looked away, silent for a moment, then replied, "I can't." Jack frowned. "Why not?" Thalara leaned forward, her golden eyes serious. "Because of you, I lived." She said, "You helped me when even my guards didn't. In our culture, if someone touches a royal during a sacred walk and the royal accepts the help, that act creates a bond." Jack shook his head, "But I didn't know. I was just trying to help someone in trouble." She smiled a little. "That's why it matters." He stood up and walked toward the window. "I'm not ready to be some kind of prince, or father, or symbol," he said. "I'm just a guy who tightens bolts and fixes toilets." Thalara stood too, slowly approaching him. "I don't need a prince," she said. "I need someone real." Jack turned around, surprised by her words. "You don't even know me." He whispered, "But I saw something in you," she answered, "when you touched me. Your thoughts passed into mine for a second. That's how our species connect sometimes. Even without knowing, you were afraid, but you still helped." "Me?" Jack took a breath. "So what happens if I say no?" Thalara's expression changed, becoming heavy. "Then I must go into ritual seclusion," she said. "My people will see it as a broken bond, and, I will not be allowed to speak again." Jack stepped back. "You're telling me if I walk away, your life is over?" She nodded. "Yes, but I don't want pity, Jack." She walked to a table and picked up a small silver box. From it, she took out a glowing pendant. Shaped like a tiny star, she offered it to Jack, placing it gently in his hand. "This is the sign of choice," she said. "You can give it back to me before moonrise and walk away freely. No one will chase you. No one will punish you. But if you keep it and come to the Hall of Light, it means you accept." Jack looked at the glowing pendant in his hand. It was warm, almost pulsing like a heartbeat. Thalara turned to leave, pausing at the door. "I don't want you to feel forced," she said, "but I hope you come." Then she left, and the door closed behind her with a soft hiss. Jack sat down again, staring at the pendant. The room was quiet, too quiet. He remembered the fear in her eyes when she stumbled, the way she whispered, "Help me," the way she defended him before the guards. He had never been important before, never noticed. Now an entire alien race saw him as something more. He didn't want fame or titles, but he couldn't forget her words. "I need someone real," she had said, and somehow, in that moment, Jack felt real for the first time. Hours passed, and the stars outside slowly moved. A soft voice came from the ceiling. 2 hours until moonrise. Jack stood, still holding the pendant. He didn't have all the answers, and he was scared, but something in his heart told him if he didn't go, he would regret it forever. He stepped into the hallway, guided by glowing lights. Every step felt heavy, like walking into the unknown, but also full of something else hope. He didn't know what would happen next, but he was going to the Hall of Light, not because he had to, but because he chose to. Jack walked through the quiet, golden halls of the Valoran Palace. Every step echoed like a question in his mind. He still held the glowing pendant in his hand, warm and pulsing. Guards nodded silently as he passed, no longer treating him like a prisoner. Some bowed. Others simply moved aside with blank faces. But none dared stop him. Not anymore. At the end of the long corridor stood a large door shaped like a crescent moon. It opened with a soft hum, revealing a room full of soft blue light. Inside was Princess Thalara, sitting by a floating pool of glowing water. She looked peaceful, but her eyes turned quickly as Jack stepped in. "You came," she said gently. Rising to her feet, Jack nodded, holding out the pendant. "I didn't want to leave with questions." She walked closer, her hands folded in front of her. "I'm glad you're here," she whispered. "There's something I need to tell." Jack tilted his head. More rules. Another surprise ceremony. She gave a small smile, then shook her head. No more rules, just the truth. She guided him to sit beside her on a soft, round platform near the water. The room was quiet, only the sound of gentle waves rising and falling in the air. She looked at him, more serious now. "My body is dying," she said softly. Slowly, quietly, from the inside, Jack blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "My bloodline," she explained. "It carries a weakness, a flaw that we hid for generations." Jack frowned. "But you're royalty. You're powerful. Everyone listens to you." Thalara nodded. "That's the illusion, Jack. Our power only lasts if the blood stays strong, but our scientists learned something. Something strange. They discovered that human DNA, especially from Earth-born men, has a healing quality for our kind." Jack's eyes widened. "Wait, are you saying?" "Yes," she interrupted. "Your touch didn't just help me walk, Jack. It stabilized my cells, slowed the sickness, and if we bond, if we create life together, it may save not just me, but my entire people." Jack sat back, overwhelmed. "So this is all because of science. I'm just a cure." Thalara quickly reached out, touching his hand. "No, not just that," she said, her voice shaking. "I didn't choose you because of data, Jack. I chose you because you made me feel safe." He stared at her, unsure how to respond. "All my life," she continued, "people bowed, obeyed, feared me. But that day, in the hallway, I was just a girl who fell, and you didn't care who I was. You held me like I mattered, not as a princess, but as a person. That's why I ask for you." Jack looked down at her hand resting on his. Warm, soft, glowing faintly with that golden Valoran energy. He felt his heart pounding not from fear, but from something deeper. Still, he had doubts. "I don't know how to be what you need," he said. "I don't know your ways, your rules, your life." Thalara smiled gently. "Then we learn together. This doesn't have to be about duty or tradition. It can be a new path, a choice between two lives. Not one forced on the other." He looked up at her. Really looked this time. She was strong, yet fragile, glowing with power, but tired from hiding the truth. And she had chosen him not because he was special, but because he was kind. "Are you scared?" he asked quietly. "Every moment," she replied. "But hope is stronger than fear." Jack stood up slowly, his voice steady now. "Then I'll stay," he said. "Not for duty, not for science, but because I don't want to walk away." Thalara's eyes shimmered, and for a moment she looked like she might cry. She stepped closer, her forehead gently resting against his. "Thank you, Jack," she whispered, "for choosing me." They stood like that for a while, quiet and still, outside. The stars moved slowly across the glass sky, but in that moment, time didn't matter. It wasn't a human and an alien, or a worker and a princess. It was just two people, standing on the edge of something new. Just then, a voice crackled through the palace speaker. "Urgent message for the royal chamber," it said. Enemy movement detected near the outer rings. Thalara pulled back, her calm face returning. "We'll face it together," she said firmly. Jack nodded, his hand still holding hers. "Let's begin." The royal guards moved quickly, sealing the doors to the chamber as the warning echoed again. Enemy movement near the outer rings. Possible breach. Jack stood beside Princess Thalara, both watching a glowing screen on the wall. Red dots blinked slowly around the edge of the station. Moving closer, the guards looked tense, their hands on their weapons. Thalara's voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. They came faster than expected. She said quietly. Jack turned to her. "Who are they?" "Faloran separatists." She answered, "They believe our bloodline must remain pure. They don't want humans involved. They hate you, Jack." Jack's heart beat faster. "So this is because of me?" Thalara shook her head. "No, it's because of what we represent. Unity, change, peace between species. They feared that more than war." Suddenly, the lights flickered, then dimmed. The chamber doors began to hum. Someone was trying to override the lock. A guard shouted, "Protect the princess." Another guard pressed a panel and activated the shield dome. A glowing blue barrier formed around Thalara and Jack, but it wouldn't last long. Jack stepped in front of Thalara, instinct taking over. "I don't know how to fight aliens," he whispered, "but I won't let them take you." Thalara placed a hand on his shoulder. "You don't need to fight like them," she said. "Just protect what matters." The door exploded inward, fire and smoke filling the chamber. 4 masked figures rushed in, fast and silent. They carried silver blades that shimmered in the low light. The guards fought back immediately, weapons clashing with sharp echoes. One guard was cut down, his body vanishing in a burst of sparks. They were using disintegration blades. One attacker reached the shield dome, placing a strange device against it. The shield began to flicker. Jack looked around, grabbed a broken pipe from the ground, and raised it like a bat. "I don't care if you're super advanced," he muttered. "You mess with her, you mess with me." The shield collapsed with a flash. The attacker lunged at Jack. Blade raised. Jack swung the pipe hard, hitting the alien in the arm. The attacker stumbled, growled, and swung again. Jack ducked, then hit him in the knee with a final swing. He knocked the blade out of the alien's hand. The attacker screamed in pain and reached for something on his belt, but before he could press it, Thalara raised her hand. Golden light shot from her palm, blasting the attacker across the chamber. He hit the wall with a thud and didn't move again. The other rebels saw it and panicked. One tried to grab Thalara, but she turned and used her energy again. The blast knocked him out cold. The remaining attackers tried to flee, but the palace guards were ready. They blocked the exit, fighting with deadly skill. Moments later, it was over. The smoke cleared, the bodies were removed, and the chamber fell silent again. Jack leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His arms were shaking, his shirt torn. Thalara walked over and placed her hand gently on his chest. "You fought like a warrior," she whispered. "I fought like a plumber with a stick," Jack said, trying to smile. But inside, he was shaken. "Why didn't you leave?" she asked softly. Jack looked at her, serious now. "Because I made a choice," he said. "I won't walk away. Not now, not ever." Thalara closed her eyes, then stepped closer. She rested her head on his chest. For the first time, she didn't feel like a princess, she felt like someone safe. And Jack didn't feel like a worker, he felt like someone important. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the chamber speaker again. "Council orders. Evacuation protocol in motion. The enemies are not alone." Thalora pulled away, her calm voice returning. "We need to go to the core hall," she said. "It's the safest place on the station." Jack nodded. "Then let's go." They walked together through smoke-filled halls, passing damaged walls and injured guards, but the people bowed as they passed. Not just to Thalora, but to Jack, too. Word had already spread the human had defended the princess with his bare hands. Legends were born in moments like this, and Jack had just become one. But the danger wasn't over. As they reached the core hall, an old enemy waited, hidden in shadows. Someone who wanted Thalora for himself. Someone who would do anything to stop this bond from becoming real. The next battle wouldn't be just about survival. It would be about destiny, about blood, and about a choice that could change two worlds forever. The core hall of the Valoran Palace was unlike anything Jack had ever seen. It was shaped like a giant sphere, floating at the center of the station. Crystal bridges reached across the air, suspended by invisible energy. Stars could be seen from every wall, as if the universe itself was watching. Golden vines of light wrapped around the ceiling, and glowing petals floated in the air like soft rain. Jack stood in the center, wearing royal robes stitched with symbols he didn't understand. They were light, smooth, and glowing faintly. He felt strange, like he didn't belong. But when Thalora walked in, everything changed. She wore a dress made of silver threads and blue starlight. Her skin shimmered softly. Her eyes glowed warm. She looked like a goddess, powerful and calm. Jack's breath caught for a moment, and for the first time, he saw her not just as a princess but as someone he truly admired. A voice echoed from the center of the hall, deep and ancient. It came from the Elder Flame. "A floating orb of fire and memory. All who gather witness the bonding," it said, "between the Daughter of Stars and the one who chose." The Valoran elders stood in silence along the edge of the bridge. So did the Earth envoys who had arrived in secret ships. This ceremony was not just about two people. It was a message. Beginning of something new. Thalora walked across the glowing bridge and stopped in front of Jack. Their hands touched gently, fingers locking together, the moment they connected. A wave of light passed through them. Jack gasped softly, feeling her thoughts. Her memories, her pain, and her hope. She felt his fears, his loneliness, his decision to stay. The Elder Flame spoke again. "Do you both accept the sacred bond of unity to carry the light forward together?" "I do," Thalora said firmly. Jack hesitated for just a second, then nodded. "I do." A golden beam shot from the flame, wrapping around their hands like a ribbon of fire. The bond was sealed, not just by words, but by truth shared through touch. Their DNA now carried part of each other, not a forced union, but a chosen connection. The hall filled with soft music, played on instruments that hovered in the air. Flowers bloomed from the walls, releasing scents that made the heart calm. The Valoran crowd bowed, and even the Earth envoys clapped softly. It was done. Jack and Thalora were now one in the eyes of both worlds, but the moment of peace didn't last long. A sharp cry echoed through the hall. One of the elders fell to the floor, his robe torn, his eyes wide in shock. Gasps filled the chamber. Then came the scream. "Assassin!" From the shadows, a figure jumped onto the bridge, covered in dark armor. He held a blade that buzzed with deadly energy. It was Prince Voran, a noble from a rival star system. He had long desired Thalora, not out of love, but for power, and he would not let a human ruin his plans. Jack moved in front of Thalora without thinking. Voran growled, "You do not belong here, Earthling." Jack didn't answer. He just stood firm. "I will fix this insult with your blood," Voran snarled, rushing forward, but Thalora raised her hand. and golden light shot forward. Voron dodged, spun, and threw a blade toward Jack. Jack ducked, barely avoiding it. He grabbed a ceremonial staff from the floor and raised it to block Voron's next strike. The two clashed on the bridge high above. The glowing void, Jack was no warrior, but he had courage. He fought with everything he had, blocking, dodging, swinging the staff with both hands. Voron was faster, stronger, trained for battle, but Jack had something else. He had something to protect. He had her Thalara join the fight, sending pulses of energy to keep Voron back. The bridge shook as their powers collided. Jack managed to strike Voron in the chest, pushing him back. The prince stumbled, and Thalara released one final blast of golden light. Voron screamed as he was flung into the void below. Silence returned. Jack stood panting, bruised, but alive. Thalara rushed to him, holding his face in her hands. "You fought for me," she whispered. "I fought for us," Jack replied. The elder flame flickered, then glowed even brighter. "Let this bond be remembered in history," it said, not born of fear, but of choice, of courage, of hope. Jack and Thalara stood in the center of the hall, hands still locked. Their journey had just begun. But already, the stars had changed course, and in the galaxy's heart, two lives had lit a new fire. After the ceremony, Jack and Thalara were taken to a new chamber deep inside the station. It was quiet, safe, guarded by the most loyal Valoran warriors. The walls were covered in symbols of bonding, and the soft golden lights never flickered. Thalara sat near a wide window, staring out at the stars. Jack stood beside her, sipping warm tea made from glowing blue leaves. Outside, the galaxy was celebrating. Messages from distant worlds were pouring in, some offering blessings, others offering warnings. News of the human princess bond had reached every corner of space. Many saw it as a symbol of peace, but some did not, hidden far beneath the station in the shadows of the power core. A group gathered in silence. They wore black armor, their faces hidden behind masks shaped like snarling beasts. They were not rebels, not soldiers, but something worse. The shadows of the flame, a secret order sworn to keep the Valoran bloodline pure. To them, Jack was a virus, a mistake that must be erased. Their leader, a tall figure with silver skin and empty eyes, spoke in a cold voice. "The bond has begun. But it can still be broken," he said. "If the human dies before the seed ritual, the bloodline remains clean." Another shadow spoke. "The princess will be weakened without him. The bond has already drained her. We move tonight." The leader whispered, silently, permanently. Back in the chamber, Jack noticed Thalara looked pale. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. She nodded, but her hand trembled. "The bond. It's powerful, but also draining," she said, "until the ritual is complete. Our bodies are still adjusting." Jack frowned. "What's the seed ritual?" "It's the final step," she replied. "The joining of spirit and strength. A moment where life might begin." Jack blushed a little. Looking down, "I didn't think I'd be this close to royalty," he said, half joking. Thalara smiled. "You're closer than anyone has ever been." Suddenly, the lights flickered. A cold wind passed through the sealed room, an impossible thing in space. Thalara stood up quickly, her body tense. Here, she whispered. "I can feel them." Jack grabbed a metal rod from the wall, the closest thing to a weapon he could find. "Who?" he asked, voice steady. "Shadows," she said. "Trained assassins, born from the dark side of our empire. They move without sound, strike without warning, and vanish like smoke." Before she could say more, the wall behind them cracked open. A hidden panel slid aside, and black figures poured in. Jack swung the rod, hitting the first one hard in the face. Thalara raised her hand, firing a golden blast. But two more shadows rolled under it. One leaped at Jack with two blades. Jack ducked, barely avoiding the slice, and kicked the figure backward. But another attacker grabbed Thalara by the neck. She struggled, gasping, her energy fading. Jack didn't think, he just moved. He slammed the rod into the attacker's spine, breaking the grip. More shadows came. 5, maybe 6. They were fast, almost too fast to see, but Jack and Thalara stood back to back. Fighting together, he blocked, she blasted, he dodged. She pushed them back with bursts of light. One shadow reached the control panel and disabled the room's defenses. Red alarms flashed as the gravity shifted, pulling everything toward the door. Jack grabbed Thalara's hand as they floated upward. "Hold on," he shouted. They kicked off the ceiling and flew into the corridor beyond. Doors slammed shut behind them, locking the shadows in. But more would come. They knew that. They ran through glowing tunnels, past confused guards and flashing lights. They had one goal: now reach the central nexus, the only place on the station with enough power to complete the bonding safely. As they ran, Jack turned to Thalara. Why didn't anyone stop these shadow people before? Thalara looked ahead, her face full of sorrow, because they were once protectors. She said, but they turned into monsters, and no one wanted to admit it. They live in our systems like a virus. They reached the central nexus. Just as more shadows appeared behind them, guards held them off, but the fight was not over. Inside the nexus chamber, a large glowing ring floated in midair. This was the heart of the station, the place where all energy began. It also held the seed crystal, a living light that could finish their bond and strengthen Thalara's bloodline. But the process would leave them vulnerable. No weapons, no movement, just connection, Thalara warned. Are you ready? Jack took her hand, looked into her tired but brave eyes. I didn't come this far to walk away now, he said. They stepped into the ring, the energy surrounding them. There. Bodies glowed, their hearts beat in sync. The seed ritual had begun outside. The battle raged. Inside, a miracle was being born. The central nexus chamber filled with golden light. Jack and Thalara stood inside the glowing ring, their hands locked, their eyes closed. The seed crystal hovered above them, humming with ancient energy. It responded to their bond, their hearts. Their truth, not just their blood. Light swirled around their bodies, wrapping them like threads of fate outside the chamber. The battle raged. Valoran guards clashed with the last of the shadows. Explosions shook the floor. Weapons flashed in. The distance. But inside the nexus, it was calm. Time felt slow, as if the universe had paused to witness what was happening. Jack could feel Thalara's thoughts in his mind. He felt her childhood memories. The pain of royal duties, the loneliness behind the crown. She felt his quiet life, his doubts, the day he almost gave up, and the moment he chose her, not because of destiny, but because of who she was. The seed crystal pulsed stronger. Its light flowed into them, merging their energy. A soft warmth spread through their chests, down their arms, into their fingers. They were no longer two. They were becoming one. The ritual reached its peak, and the seed crystal shone like a second sun. Outside, every screen on the station lit up. People across the galaxy saw the same thing: two beings standing in pure light. A human and a Valoran, bonded not by force, but by choice. It was a moment that would never be forgotten. When the light faded, Jack opened his eyes slowly. Thalara stood in front of him, her glow gentler now, her breathing steady. But something had changed. She looked stronger, brighter, more alive. The sickness that had once threatened her life was gone. Jack didn't need to ask, he knew. She smiled. It worked, she whispered. Jack smiled back, his hand still holding hers. I guess we're really bonded now, he said, trying to laugh. Thalara nodded, and more. She said softly, I can feel it. New life has begun. Jack blinked, surprised. Wait, are you saying? She touched her stomach gently. Yes, she said. A new future is growing inside me. A child born from two worlds. Jack's heart raced, not from fear, but from wonder. He had come to fix a pipe, and now? He was going to be a father, outside the chamber. The last of the shadows were defeated. Guards entered with respect, not force. Bowing low before Jack and Thalara, one of them spoke. The council awaits, your highnesses. They were no longer just a princess and a human worker. They were leaders of a new era. The High Council gathered in the Great Hall. Along with Earth's ambassadors and alien leaders from distant worlds, Jack and Thalara walked side by side, hand in hand. The crowd went silent as they stepped onto the central platform. The Elder Flame floated above them once more, its voice echoing through the hall. Let it be known, it said, that the bond is complete. The shadows have failed, but the light remains from this day forward. Earth and Valora shall walk together, not apart. Thunderous applause filled the hall. Voices from 100 species shouted in joy. Flags waved, tears fell. Smiles spread across the galaxy. It was the beginning of something rare, true peace. Jack stood before the crowd, nervous but brave. I'm not a hero, he said. I didn't plan this. I just helped someone across a hallway. But that one act changed everything. Thalara stepped beside him, her voice calm and clear. Kindness is stronger than weapons, she said, and love is the most powerful light of all. The ceremony ended, but the story didn't. Months later, a new starship was built, the Unity Flame, designed by humans and Valorans together. It was the first of its kind, fast, peaceful, strong. Made to explore the stars, not conquer them. Jack and Thalara stood on its bridge, wearing captain robes. Behind them, a small crib glowed softly where their newborn daughter slept. She had Jack's eyes and Thalara's golden skin. She was the first of her kind, a child of peace, a child of stars. They named her Alara, which meant light between worlds. People came from across the galaxy just to see her. Some called her the future. Others called her a miracle. But Jack simply called her my girl. And kissed her forehead every night. Thalara called her our promise, and sang her songs that echoed in the stars in time. Stories would be told of the man who touched a princess and changed the galaxy. Of a hallway where kindness started a revolution. Of a bond stronger than fear. And a love that reached beyond species, and the stars would remember forever.